ghosted a whole fucking group of us.
He did?
Like just at the end of a meal. And just got up from the table, didn't say anything anymore.
Really?
Definitely drunk. And just started walking out on the street. It's 9 degrees outside. Hadn't called a taxi, hadn't fucking called an Uber, he just walked out. And I was like, is anybody gonna go after Dale? And everybody's like, yeah, whatever. Like, no, this was after Speed Rack. He wasn't there for that, of course. He was there for a Hendrix event that just happened to be in town at the same time. So I went to go see Mark Studdard, and I was like trying to meet with him. He's like, oh, well, I'm out with Dale or whatever. I'm like, yeah, no worries. Like, whenever that's done, just hit me up. He's like, all right, well, I'm going to be at this place next. I'm like, cool, all right, I'll head over. And I go over to this place, and it's this like really fancy dining room. And there's this fucking party of 8. And they're like, there's one seat. You know, it's like Dale and the whole Hendrix team.
How does that sound?
And there's one seat empty. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Did I just go into did I just get like lumped into this fucking 8-course meal? Yeah, with Dale DeGraff right now. And yes, I did. That's what I got lumped into.
But then you didn't.
No, and he stayed for the whole meal. And then at the very end, Mark Studdard ordered like 3 bottles of very expensive grower juice, grower champagne. And then at the very end, he ordered more oysters as a dessert because Mark just like spent a lot of money. And then like Dale had a few to drink. He was definitely showing it. And so he was like, wait, what's the run of show tomorrow? Like when's my call time, all that stuff. And they kind of told him, and he's like, he just got up from the table, started walking out. It's 9 degrees outside. I was like, this guy's just gonna walk out of here right now. Like, it's not gonna be on my head, that's for sure, that we lost Dale DeGraff because nobody walked after him. All right, so this is gonna be our cognac for the day. Okay.
Nobody knows.
It's definitely gonna be.
Nobody knows.
So that's here. We're gonna eat some rye. Maybe we do the Rittenhouse. That's also not gonna.
We're live.
Hey! The studio audience.
I've never used that before. I don't know how I feel about it.
I don't know. I like it. I think.
I like it.
That could work.
It actually now that you mention it, now that you guys respond this way, I feel physically happier. Like my spine is elongating. If anyone's there, we are live, and we're so glad that you're here. Stefan, I'm so sorry that I put that in front. Oh,
dude. Maybe we are doing 3/4 specs. Yeah, get out of here with this stuff, man.
I failed today. I didn't have enough
He's doing great.
of things.
He's got all the things.
How are you all? Sean Michael here with The Cocktail Journey, and we have a couple of great guests today that we're so excited to introduce. This week's cocktail, we're doing the Vieux Carré, which I am very excited to learn more about because I think my learning curve on this one has been pretty intense considering, well, the last few cocktails we've done. But you guys at home, are you guys joining in? Or are you following along? We have a few people watching.
People joining us, yeah. We have a different setup every day, so I'm like looking for where everything is. Oh, see, we already have 10 people on the call.
Yeah, you guys are pretty much, I mean, are you guys saucy yet?
Should we introduce ourselves?
I feel saucy.
I mean, everybody knows who Sean is. Sean with The Cocktail Journey. He's a very handsome, very established individual. And then Meghan Balser over here. Really great bartender, right? You want to say hi to the audience? Anything to add to the audience out there?
Well, I have a lot to add about Meghan.
There you go, yeah.
Specifically, this amazing lady here, we've been following her career since we really got interested in cocktails. I don't know how many years ago. It doesn't matter. The first time we sat in front of her, she made us one of her signature cocktails, which I'd love to get to talk about a little bit today because we love it, and that's enough.
It might not have anything to do with the Vieux Carré.
Well, it sort of does. I mean, it's
rye-based.
It's rye-based,
and
close enough.
And it has alcohol in it. So that's anyway. That drink is called the Marie Laveau, and we're very excited about that drink.
That's right.
Still to this day, and maybe I'll get you to make one for us sometime.
Yeah,
but
for
now,
ingredients.
do we have any questions? Well, we have. Oof, you guys are up.
Already popping in here. Hi friends, let us know where you're calling from and how are things going there. Because here in San Diego, we have just opened 25% some of our bars and restaurants. I have to move forward. Cool. All right. I'm the guy here. Is this? Yeah. Anyways, here in San Diego, we just opened up a few of our bars to about 25% occupancy. So curious to see how everybody's doing out there, and if anybody's excited about getting back out to town once we're vaccinated. I'm sure everybody is, but let us know where you're going to be going first. That's kind of always a fun one. When safely bars reopen in your neck of the woods, where's your first stop? And I'm Stefan, by the way. Hi. I think you all know me, but in case, 20-year bartender. And, yeah, I'm a regular here. Yeah.
We will make a few different variations today, but we specifically want to remember to talk about Benedictine and the possibility of making this drink without it in there, which may be heresy to some people. But what if you're trying to build your bar with 15 bottles and that isn't in your bar? Can you still make this drink? Maybe we'll try a side-by-side today and see what the pros think and see if I can tell. Oh, that's not funny. Don't make fun of yourself.
Do you have any honey here?
We do have honey. I didn't make a honey syrup, actually, which I thought about doing.
It's all right. We can easily make one.
All right.
Ooh, somebody's got some penny pound pie.
John Park's got some penny pound.
Well done, John
Hey
Park. Love it. Yeah, this is going to be a good one for that. Louisville, we've hit 50-60% capacity. That's amazing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of whiskey going out.
While we're getting people kind of coming online, I heard both of you reference it being on the rocks today, and almost in a way that it was kind of like almost surprising, or like right. What's the percentage? Like, what's the split where you see like this served up versus on the rocks out there?
I mean, I don't know. This drink for me like just reminds me of an old fashioned, you know, and like it's kind of in that weird gray area between like an old fashioned, a Manhattan, and a Negroni. And so for me, my brain goes instantly on a rock. You can absolutely serve it up. I think you probably get a bit more of the aroma from the Benedictine, probably like the herbaceous qualities from the Benedictine. But I think that it loses like a little bit of the feel and the nuance of being like an old-fashioned Negroni variation when it's served up. But I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody how to make your drink at home. And I think it's also a preference thing. If you like it on the rocks, then you'll probably enjoy this drink on the rocks. And if you like drinks that tend to be, you know, served up, I think that's a good play too. What do you think? You have a preference?
I like it on the rocks. That's how I
Yeah.
prefer it. That's just how I've known to drink it and make it. And it is kind of like, I guess it is kind of a marriage between an old fashioned and a Manhattan. So it could be either, but I prefer it on the rocks. It just has so much going on in there that I feel like the dilution as you drink it, like so much more, you'll taste so much more.
Yeah, that's what I would guess too.
For me, like the thing is, this drink we're about to make one, and you guys are going to be able to make one with us. It's boozy. It's a boozy drink. So I like to have it on a rock. Boozier drinks I like to put on that rock because over time you can experience the dilution, right? You can have it maybe a little under diluted at the beginning, and you can watch it kind of mature into that glass as you drink it. Whereas if you serve it up, I highly recommend stirring it for a longer period of time. But you're only going to get it at that point, right? You're not going to be able to watch it change and evolve.
Yeah.
And maybe after you've had your first one on a rock or on some rocks, you can determine for yourself whether you like it a bit stronger and boozier, or if you like it when it starts to dilute to a certain level, and maybe you want to try your second one up.
So so this is we're using a drier rye here. So
that's the one. Yeah.
My favorite.
Yeah, it's good. That's a workhorse for sure. We should probably make one.
I think we should make one. Who's made one already?
Has anybody already made one? You want to do the honors?
Sure.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Let me know if you can't find anything, and I'll...
Bitters.
Bitters, yeah. That's the first step.
Ooh. There we go.
Yeah, cool.
Right, so the recipe that I know is 2 dashes of Peychaud's.
It's all right. Stains are good.
I'm rusty. 2 dashes of Angostura. And then...
Bar spoon of Benny?
Bar spoon?
Or do you do more?
Well, it depends on what ratio I'd be using. So if it was 3/4,
Oh yeah, because if it's 1 ounce, you could bump up
If it was
to
1, I would do
1/4.
half. That's just. We're doing 1?
Yeah, we're gonna do 1, 1,
Okay.
1.
So then.
No, actually, let's do 3/4 because we don't have a whole lot of everything.
Sounds good.
But we'll
So,
post the 1-to-1,
A bar
right?
spoon.
Yep.
A Benedictine.
Or please allow me to.
Present. And then we're gonna use 3 3/4 ounce of Rittenhouse rye.
Somebody's dropping stuff in the hallway out there.
And then cognac.
So a bar spoon, we're using an eighth of an ounce as a bar spoon. If you're doing 1 ounce of each of the spirits, then you might want to bump up to 1/4 ounce of Benedictine. Cool. Cognac, sweet.
Cognac, and then sweet vermouth.
I will ice you. Otherwise known as bar management.
This is the first time I've done something long. I would say about 50 rotations.
Full on 50?
Yeah.
Got you, brother. Thank you.
Strain this. And then lemon twist. Garnish. Just express the oils over the drink. Give it a nice little twist. And there you go.
Ooh, there you go.
You want to do the honors?
Sure.
Yeah, right. Great. So
Beautiful without ice.
we had to adjust the recipe from what we had put on the chat because we're low on sweet vermouth, as it were to turn out. So we went with 3/4 of each of the spirits, and then 2 dashes of each bitters and a bar spoon of Benedictine. At home, I like to make nice big boozy drinks. I would imagine you would probably like to do the same. And to do that, I would just bump up each spirit to a full ounce, and then you can add 1/4 ounce of Benedictine as opposed to a bar spoon. And you can even bump up more bitters if you like a bitter cocktail. If you order this in a cocktail bar, more than likely this 3/4 spec would be your ratio. Because cocktail bars have to make money. That's a little rub about bars is that they can't just throw a bunch of booze in the drink and still expect to be around. Yeah, see, that's boozy.
Delicious.
Tasty. Yeah, what does everybody think as they start to make their cocktail? It's like super, almost like raisinated from the cognac.
I get a lot of the anise. I haven't had one of these in a really long time. So it's probably from a mixture of the Benedictine and the Peychaud.
It's definitely the Peychaud. It's getting that like anise quality. Oop. Yeah, so it's like that beautiful, kind of bittersweet. Not as bittersweet as a Negroni, but definitely more bittersweet than a old-fashioned. You get this nice, like almost Manhattan-y vibes out of it. So if you like Manhattans, this is definitely a great, easy switch over, right? It's been a hot minute.
So my thoughts at this point are like I don't know if I could do without the Benedictine, to be honest. I feel like it plays with the cognac in a way that I think is really important.
Yeah,
that's how I feel.
I would recommend using Benedictine if you can. If you don't have it, that's okay. I mean, you could easily make a syrup, or you can even take some of your cognac and add a little bit of honey to it. You can add some herbs if you want as well. Yeah.
I have a question for Megan. So you worked at 7 Grand here in San Diego for how many years?
4 years.
4 years. How often did you see this drink coming through, and was it on the menu? Because I don't remember.
It wasn't on the menu, but it was like a favorite amongst the bartenders. So it was something that we suggested, and it was it's pretty easy to make, and it's also if you already are drinking an old fashioned or a Manhattan, this is a perfect segue to another cocktail. So.
Wow. This was one of I think when I was over at George's, this is the first of my barrel-aged cocktails.
Yeah.
Was the Vieux Carré, because I mean it's all booze, right? I mean you can just leave the sweet vermouth out and put everything else into the barrel and let it just sit for however long. I don't know. It depends on how big the barrel is, but we had a pretty small one, so like a month was plenty. Where I'd actually blend some fresh Vieux Carré batch back in and then add the sweet vermouth in there to order. It was really, really good. So this is a fun one to barrel age if you want.
I feel like this drink is one of those that gets better as it sits too.
Mm-hmm.
Like we said, we put it on ice, so it'll kind of like
Yeah.
all the flavors will hang out and just evolve as you drink.
Totally. And you could make it a little more boozier if you wanted to use B&B instead of Benedictine.
That's Daniel Copeland just said he
blend of
does what
Benedictine
he did.
liqueur and brandy. It'll be drier too, just a touch drier. I mean, there's not a whole lot of Benedictine in the recipe. It really is just kind of the modifier that adds just that extra dimension, of herb and like honey notes. But yeah, this is obviously, that's an easy play. B&B. Good call out there.
Should we talk a little bit about where it came from and the history?
Yeah, absolutely. You were doing.
I did a little research to brush up. So this drink is from the Carousel Bar in the Hotel Monteleone in New Orleans. So it's a very famous New Orleans drink. It was first made in the 1930s. I believe the bartender was named Walter Bergeron. And yeah, it just became like a quintessential New Orleans cocktail.
Yeah, the Monteleone is a very famous old hotel in the old square, or the old French Quarter, which the French name for that is Vieux Carré, which is where the cocktail name comes from. And it's a seminal. Their bar has always been seminal to the New Orleans experience, whether it's been its current state as the Carousel Bar or the hotel bar, lobby bar before there. It's still kind of arguable whether this cocktail was absolutely first invented there, but I'll believe him. I'll go with it. Obviously, he worked there, so he's he's gonna have a little. He's gonna be like, oh, of course, we came up with that one just on the Saturday night, But it was definitely from the French Quarter in New Orleans, and it definitely tastes like it belongs in the French Quarter with the brandy and the Benedictine and the Peychaud's especially, which is a very specific aromatic bitters for the region. Invented in New Orleans, still made in New Orleans. So, this is a New Orleans cocktail for sure. And it's also kind of a weird one. I was telling, we were just kind of talking, Meghan and I offline, was that this isn't like your first round of 1800s cocktails. This is a more modern version of a stirred cocktail, and it's more modern in its specs too. I feel like, kind of playing off the Negroni and other equal parts drinks. And I think it's one that can easily get overlooked. But I think it definitely deserves the limelight, and I'm happy that we didn't even get 10 cocktails in before we approached it, which is cool. Some people were asking which $7 grand you were working at.
San Diego.
Yeah.
Yep, I first opened it in 2012. So I was there for about 4 years.
Yeah, you were a staple there. Like that was pretty much the only place I could find you for the longest time.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun opening that bar.
All the time.
Yeah.
I can't wait for it to reopen. Please tell me it's reopening soon.
Very soon.
Yeah,
I
it's
heard
like
springtime.
good.
So.
Yeah, it's boarded up right now. It's got everybody's. Is your signature on that wall?
No.
It's like a lot of the bartenders.
The bartenders that closed up shop before the pandemic.
And Garrett.
Mm-hmm.
And Garrett.
Garrett
he must have just rolled by and was like, hey, I'm going to put my name
He
on
was
there.
probably hanging out in North Park anyways.
He was definitely probably hanging out. Probably working. He was probably definitely working, but still hanging out.
Somewhere.
So can we talk about dilution a little bit for this drink? One of the things that I love about 7 Grand is that they always have been really good about making sure they get their dilution right as they're serving it to you. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Like,
yeah, they've heard me talk about dilution. What are some of your thoughts on it, Meg?
Well, just like I said with this one, if it's going to be served over ice, I would dilute it a little bit less. If it's going to be served up, dilute it a little bit more. Of course, if something is served up in the first place, you want it to stay cold longer. So you want it to hit that ice a little bit longer before you put it in the glass. Hopefully a chilled glass, so then stay colder longer. But also, like I said, this drink and other drinks is when they warm up, then more flavors come out. So you'll experience more the longer it sits on ice or the less it sits on ice.
Oh, we just got a question for you, Megan. What was your favorite drink at the Pegu Club?
Pegu Club.
Pegu Club, sorry.
Favorite drink I made? Well, actually, I didn't create any drinks there. But I would say the Little Italy. That was my favorite drink, and that's also a Manhattan variation. Very simple, sweet vermouth, rye whiskey, and Chinar. Very simple, but it was delicious.
Was that
It's
equal parts, or was it more rye?
More rye, only a half ounce of Chinar.
Okay.
But then again, it's one of those drinks that you can tailor to your preference. So
And
now
that-
I think I would
green-
put more
that-
Chinar.
Yeah, well, that time in cocktail history, I feel like some of the more, some of the flavors like Chinar or, chartreuse and stuff were like in smaller dosages in the cocktails because the cocktail culture and the drinking culture wasn't ready for like an ounce.
Trying to ease everybody into
Yeah,
it.
well, I mean, I don't think a lot of the
Yeah.
bartenders at the time would even be down with that much,
Mhm.
I don't think the bitter Giuseppe showed up till much later. What a great bar, the Pegu Club. God damn. Anyways.
Do you guys want to switch spots and make another one?
Yeah, let's make
Do you
another
want to have
one.
a variation?
Yeah, we should definitely make a variation on this guy. I'm trying to think. I don't have one off the top of my head that's like in the compendium. We can play around. Let's see what we have here. Since we're out of sweet vermouth, that's out. So we should.
I was thinking, so I was thinking of variations, and I was like, what if we did like a perfect Vieux Carré?
Sure.
Something like that. I
Yeah.
don't know if you guys have dry vermouth.
He's
or-
got dry and blanc. Why don't we mix that up? That'd be kind of fun. Kind of do like a lighter style.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
We have a question while you're doing that. Corey asks, how long does Benedictine last once opened?
Forever.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Trust me.
It's a boozy one.
There are a lot of. I'm trying to remember the ABV on this. There are 40. Yeah, it's 80 proof. So this is not going anywhere. Very very shelf stable. I think everybody's home bars have at least a 0.8, like 80% of the bottle with like a nice ring of dust around it.
For sure.
You might find one in the back of your home bar that you didn't even know you had. I thought I would have one, and I didn't. I was.
You know what
really...
that actually happened for me with was this.
Oh, really?
That happened. This sat in my bar for someone gave me a bottle that was like that full,
Okay.
and it just sat under there in my last house forever.
Now, see if it was by
and then
the
I pulled it
coffee
out, and I
station,
was
it'd be
like,
gone.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
once I actually tried it and played with it, I was like, this is now my favorite sweetener,
I love it.
pretty much.
It's pretty good.
Trying to think. I think we're gonna do a lighter style, so I'm kind of like looking at the Fortaleza, and being like, should we just go agave spirit with it?
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to like completely switch it up for you guys because it's fun, right? So for this one, we're gonna. Ooh, goodness, that was a lot. Just
Here, just yeah, that's fine.
we'll half that up. All right. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna do a 1/4 ounce of dry vermouth. I did grab the dry. And then we'll do a 1/2 ounce of blanc vermouth. Both of them are Dolene. Blanc vermouth is just a little less sugar, a lighter style than sweet vermouth. A very French style vermouth for sure.
You said 1/4 of both?
No, 1/4 of the dry and a 1/2 of the sweet.
Oh.
And then we'll do a 3/4 ounce of tequila blanco. So then the third component, the cognac component, I kind of want to keep that because I really like the way that cognac plays in the drink. So we're gonna stay there. We're gonna stay home with that. And then, do we still have that bottle of maraschino? Maybe. Oh, we do. Yeah, let's play with that. Let's mix it up. Let's switch out of the Benedictine and into the maraschino this time. We're like really switching it up.
Yeah. I like it though. I like where you're going with this.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I think we're going to be good. I think we're going to be in good shape. And instead of the Peychaud, well, maybe we keep the Peychauds and we switch the aromatic over to orange. Maybe that's what we'll do. We're just playing around. We're going to see how this tastes. This might be terrible. So we'll do 2 of those. We'll need some ice.
Stefan's having a little fun here.
Yeah. I like where he's going with it though. It's
Me
already a
too.
pretty color.
I'm really interested.
Looks like Aperol.
It does kind of an Aperol color now, doesn't
me so happy.
Does anybody?
Right.
Oh, what kind of cognac is this? You wanna take them through this single
Coming
cask?
down.
Commandant. It's a single cask cognac from France. But I'll tell you what, if I had Remy 1738, I would probably be using that. Cool, that should be relatively there. So much lighter in color, should be lighter in body, but not light on flavor.
Oof, that is pretty.
I like it.
Yeah, right? Well, we drink with our eyes first, don't we? So we'll stay with the lemon peel for aromatics, for brightness. I don't have a name for it yet, but I'm about to find out how it tastes. You guys want to straw test before I dive in? Let's do it. That doesn't suck. Kind of has an Aperol thing going on.
Yeah, all that citrus in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think the tequila really brings out the citrus from the.
Definitely. It's way lighter in body.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sound spec, though. I mean, the equal parts thing, it's definitely not.
I think it could even be a little bit sweeter.
It could be. Yeah, I mean, we could have just knocked out the dry vermouth and just done all Blanc. I don't mind. It's a pretty dry drink already, right? The Vieux Carré. The only sweetener in there besides a bar spoon of Benedictine is 3/4 ounce of sweet vermouth. So, yeah, like it.
A bar spoon of maraschino.
I use maraschino this time, which can dry it out. So you're right. We probably shouldn't have done two dry things, but it's pretty close to. So I think from what we did, you could just pull out the dry vermouth and just use 3/4 ounce. Or
I like that. It really does carry
Blanc.
the spirit of the Vieux Carré somehow.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you put Peychaud's into a drink, you're instantly transported to the French Quarter in Louisiana, New Orleans, Louisiana, for sure. That I know that people have used it in the past on cognac and brandy episodes, but yeah, that Pierre Ferrand 1840 is a spectacular cognac for cocktails. It really does shine well. So that's well done, Steve. Well done.
So in all of your time working in bars, do you feel like you had a preference working in a whiskey bar as opposed to just like a bar with a menu that rotates all year?
Here, please have the hot seat.
It's two different bars, really.
Yeah.
I mean, so 7 Gram was focused mainly on one spirit. So I had to learn a lot about whiskey, and it totally took me away from my cocktail background, which was, learning about spirits, but also learning how to use them in drinks. There, it was kind of limited. So it was actually interesting trying to make a 4 or 5 ingredient cocktail max for whiskey drinking people, and not have it be so complex and really just let the whiskey shine and everything. So
I feel like
it was a lesson.
my upbringing in cocktails was from the stirred side, and then moved into sours and everything that was more refreshing. I feel like we've talked about this a lot. I feel like there's very little margin of error when you're having stirred drinks, and I think that's almost a rite of passage for a bartender to focus on just the basic bones,
Sure.
the core spine of how to balance a drink, because there's nowhere to hide.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really hard when especially if you're pouring over rocks, because it's impossible to really take a good idea of where that wash line, where the cocktail after stirring is supposed to sit on the glass, right? If you're throwing something in a coupe glass, it's really easy to tell because you've eliminated any variables other than your shake, your ingredients, and then wherever that sits in the glass, you can instantly be like, oh wait, I didn't shake long enough, or I forgot the lime juice, or whatever. It's if it's too low, you can instantly tell that there's some issue. But we hand cut these rocks, so both these rock sizes are way different. But even if you're just using ice that you bought from the store. You know, sometimes you can fit 4 ice cubes in there because of how they were frozen or the size and what have you. Some it's 3, some it's 6, and it's impossible every time to know where that line is. So the only way to really start to understand dilution and to really get your head around how long it takes to stir something is to have to taste many, many, many cocktails, right? Until you've like ingrained it in your brain of, okay, I know this is going to be a pretty good drink if I stop now, or I know I'm going to overstir it if I continue stirring any longer than now, So like I get that question a lot when people are like, hey, well, like, have I stirred the drink long enough? Or how do I know? How many rotations, right? Like that's good too, is you can start counting rotations. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard to say, especially because tastes are different. Each cocktail is different. Each ABV, percentage of each cocktail is different.
Yeah, it's a lot of variables, right? So many variables changing all the time. Like we have a question right here from Carl. He's referencing like how bitters come out of the bottle differently as the bottle bitter amount goes down.
Well, I'll tell you what, a fresh bottle of bitters where there's no air at all in here, you get very little in that first few dashes. So I usually tell my bartenders to dash those out, right? Because otherwise you're not going to get, or add double. But yeah, technically, the more air you have in here, you're going to get a little bit more coming out of each. That's why you see a lot of, high-end cocktail bars trying to eliminate these issues by standardizing to
dasher
aftermarket dashers.
I was going to say the vessel too, especially those are heavier dashes than.
Totally. Yeah, so like you'll see at cocktail bars, a lot of them, they just take their bitters and put them into other bottles that have a more standardized dasher top, which can have a more consistent dash. They're smaller, so you usually see if like a recipe calls for 2 dashes, you might see a bartender dash 4 because they're a lot smaller, but they're more consistent. So you'd be like, I know that 4 equals 2, for this particular size.
Right, but okay, so I want to bring something up here because the majority of the time that I've made drinks, I mean, I've done a couple parties, but that doesn't count. I'm sort of maybe it's actually worse in a way because people when they drink at people's homes, it gets slutty. But
towards the end of the night,
yeah.
The first cocktail coming from that banquet bar is like.
So I mean, I have kids, so I can imagine chaos around me constantly. But when you're in the bar and there are all those variables that we were just talking about, like they're almost culminating through the night, especially as everyone gets a little bit more tossed.
Right.
So like people are getting more difficult to deal with. That variable's changing. Mm-hmm. You're getting more tired. Mm-hmm. Ingredients are running out. Things are changing constantly.
Right. The ice.
And
the ice right at the beginning of the night when you've poured fresh ice from the ice machine into your well. They're like still frozen, but at the end of the night they're like real slutty and already like half like melted. Yeah, so it definitely changes for sure. What was the actual? I think I know where the end of this question's going, but go ahead. And
thank
continue.
you for seeing where I'm going. That the way that how do you respond to that environment, knowing that like you're also getting questions from your coworkers constantly and the bar back and whatever else you're thinking about. Mm-hmm. So there's all this stuff attacking. Yeah, you know how to make the drinks already, but like there's all this stuff that's keeping you from being able to focus, and that's all you really want to focus on. So my question is, like, how do you mitigate that? I mean, in a sense, you know the specs, but then isn't it kind of just like cooking? It's like that's enough bitters. It's like.
It can be.
That's enough.
It can be, but I don't know if it's as much cooking as it still is more like baking, because things are still have to be pretty well measured out for you to get a really good cocktail, and you have to be able to understand dilution and stirring, whether it's fresh ice or old slutty ice.
There's only so many times you can go back and add, before the drink
changes
into something else.
Totally. Like I mean, there's only a handful of ways to balance a cocktail correctly, and outside of those ways, it's all bad. It's all, college town bartending. But I will also say that, like, and I'm sure that a lot of you here, unless you're from, like, New York, San Francisco, Chicago, will probably reiterate this, that there's very little, like, cocktail culture to be had after midnight, right? Like, when things get really, like, the music gets really loud, there's a whole lot less, like, specialty cocktails going out and a whole lot more, Boilermakers, shots, beers.
True.
So, yeah, I think the biggest adjustment for a bartender is adjusting with the part of the night, right? Like happy hour bartending looks way different than cocktail hour bartending.
Mm-hmm.
and cocktail or bartending is way different than end of your night. You know, people are coming in, you're cutting people off, you're high-fiving and taking shots with, you know, other industry people walking in. Like, there's just a totally different vibe. Like, during the evening, there's probably like 4 different points of service, right?
Yeah.
Like, of
You
any
can definitely
shift.
read the crowd and see the night change.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, you know, even at really fancy bars, you're like all done up at 6 o'clock making, you know, cocktails, but by midnight, your tie is undone. The music is 3 times as loud as it was. There's usually like the lights cut off, and there's like just
people standing at the bar.
Yeah, there's like a, you know,
DJ in the corner.
yeah, there's a mirror ball that comes out of nowhere at like
Yeah.
midnight, right? Like those are the best bars that like can evolve as the night progresses.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and you also alluded to it that there does become a bit more like air, like ability for error when everybody's just, you know, they're 3-4 deep.
And of course more grace too. They're not
Yeah.
able to pay attention to that level, but
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think that you get more, you know, you get more slutty as the night goes for sure. Yeah,
well, we're thankful for the sluttiness.
yeah, absolutely. I'm ready for it.
Do we have any other questions? I think there's a few people that are making their drinks now.
Oh, good.
Did anybody else try any other variations or?
It's Fortaleza.
Yeah, that was a really good move.
I just saw it in there. I hadn't had it in a while. Like I have a bottle at home I need to break out. Tequila Fortaleza. I know it's on the 15 bottle bar
Carré.
list. It's literally like water down here in Southern California. It's so
Right?
good.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, I don't know about you, but I don't know if you have a favorite tequila that's not Fortaleza, but for me, it's like that's the bar, and it's either as good as Fortaleza or almost as good as Fortaleza. Would
Pretty
you
much
agree?
the same. Yeah, I feel like that's what I've been drinking since I moved to San Diego.
Yeah.
That's what I was introduced to when
Mhm.
I moved here. So I'm like, that's kind of like my jam for tequila now.
So good. There's other good ones out there. I mean, there's, you know, how many, what's the nom count up to? Like 1,300 or something? So there's plenty of good tequilas.
It's crazy.
There's a bunch of terrible tequila out there, too.
Yeah. A lot of good ones, too.
Who's got a question?
Yeah,
I want to know how everybody's drinks are tasting.
Yeah.
we have some people that really
like
were
it?
happy
Is it
with them.
terrible?
We've got some.
Anybody having their first Vieux Carré in their life tonight? That'd be interesting to hear.
Someone like that you said raisinated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's raisinated.
If you're really lame, you might say that you're a raisinator. If you grow raisins, if you make raisins, but I wouldn't do that.
Oh man, the rare breed rye. I still haven't even had it yet.
Yeah.
Corey, how is that cocktail tasting? I am insanely obsessed with the bourbon, that rare breed bourbon.
Lemon versus orange twist.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a to each their own. Like if you like orange twist, you can go there. I think the lemon works really well in here because it's way brighter. Like the citrus oils are just brighter, so you get a bit more of like that citrus pop. The orange would, I think, bring out the like more of the dark spirits.
Deeper tones, I think. Yeah, I like it with orange.
Mhm.
To be honest with you, and it just depends on your mood too. It's like there's no right or wrong way to drink a cocktail.
No, if you're gonna express an
Mhm.
orange peel into anything that has like you know aged spirits in it, it's gonna be a great cocktail. Yeah, for sure. I think the lemon brings us into more of almost aperitif, you know, with the Benedictine, with the sweet vermouth. Yeah, so I guess it also depends on when you want to drink it too. If you're drinking this after dinner, I would probably go orange. If you're drinking it before or during, I would go lemon because that extra pop of acid will, you know, lighten it up just a touch more.
Is it okay to substitute with Irish whiskey or Scotch?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think you have to change the spec. I mean, Irish whiskey can taste a little sweeter on your tongue, even though obviously there's no more sugar content than any other whiskey. But
I actually think it would be really interesting with Scotch.
Mhm.
I never even thought about that. It would definitely like bring more dimension to it.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, and we can even argue what Scotch, like if you love like
Lighter.
if you love like the big smoky peaty Isla stuff, obviously that's going to change this drink
A lot.
entirely. But
Yeah.
but I could see something like a Speyside with that like very classic apple and pears thing.
I
Going
think I have an
super well.
Oshentoshen. Do you want to try a variation?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's go with it. Yeah, like that kind of apple and pear, you know, brandy vibe would be really great. Here, I'm gonna let you do that. I'll go get some ice.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think if you use a smoky like peaty Scotch, it would just be too overpowering.
I guess you could just do, you know, a float or, you know, like a bar spoon in there. Yeah. You want to start making it? I'll get you all your stuff.
Sure.
Hopefully we have enough.
Should we go with the same bitters? That's what I'm thinking.
What?
I don't know.
What could we have some other options. We have
We got that cacao.
we got the cacao. We just got the Ingo cacao.
Oh, the Ingo cacao.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That
let's
could be
do
fun
that.
to play with, right?
I think that would be good with the Scotch sweet vermouth.
Have you had that stuff?
I have not. No,
Oh
it's
my
my
God.
first time.
So good.
If they have to wait that long to make another bitter, okay. If it's this good again next time, it's like, okay, we'll wait.
Right, it was their first new product in 100 years, so you can imagine
Put
it's
a couple
probably.
more because this was a fresh bottle. So
Mhm.
this is a good example. So I use a fresh bottle and it's
Very small dashes.
very small dashes.
I'm just gonna keep crushing this one. The audience.
Let me see
I'm happy to be back.
this.
I had to take a week
You know,
off
I'm
last
going to
week.
use the Peychaud.
Yeah,
just
well,
to
we're
keep
glad
it
you're back.
classic.
But you're gonna be out again. You're gonna be on the road.
I think I'm back next week.
He keeps sneaking. I can't tell whether
If
he's
I'm
gonna
in,
go.
If I'm in Southern California, I will be here on Thursday. For
Rad.
Sure.
This one's clean.
Peychauds and chocolate bitters.
I used Peychaud's and chocolate.
Okay.
Just threw in some Akatashin.
This is really good stuff, right? This
I think I will stick with the rye. And I see you have some Drambuie in there, so I think I'm going to use a little bit of Drambuie
there
Definitely.
you go.
to pair with the Scotch
Keep
Yes.
and
it
give that
Scottish, mate.
honey flavor.
Macintosh. Been a while. Where you been?
Over here.
I've been right underneath you.
Up by your knees.
For this one, I might just do 2 bar spoons. Let's go crazy.
You're making the drink.
Oh, dang.
We're all watching. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't hurt too. If you run out of rye, you can easily double up on the cognac. And yes, the Benedictine, I can imagine that happening. Definitely running to the top of the drink.
Thank you.
Your ice, madame.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess we could kind of put this one in the rusty nail category now.
Yeah, like a hybrid.
But that's like the
Nail.
fun. That's the fun about. And I'm probably way far away from the mic. But that's kind of the fun about cocktails is that you change one ingredient and it's a different cocktail, right? Like the rusty nail and the Manhattan.
Nice and silky.
You thinking orange?
I'm thinking orange. Let's try it. Thank you.
Oh.
Sexy.
No, you go for it.
All right.
Yep, you go first. I'll straw test it up
Cheers.
for you. Cheers for sure.
I like it.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
What are you thinking? Way different than the the tequila version. I like it. The cacao pops
Yeah,
at the
definitely
end.
is.
Like you get kind of the scotchy goodness.
Scotch first, chocolate next.
Chocolate next. Yeah. Huh. Man. See? So the Vieux Carré
Wow.
has more application than you could possibly imagine.
More than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, chocolate, definitely. And
Yeah.
I mean, I went back and did a couple more, but still.
No, no.
pretty potent.
But I think what's going on there is that you added a little bit. It's a little sweeter than like the original spec. Because you used
So
a
it's
couple
green
bar
outside.
spoons of what you used
Drambuie.
Drambuie. Yeah. So you're gonna have just a hint more like sweetness that is gonna dry out different flavors. It's good though. It's really good. Dang,
And a really
cheers.
good like after dinner drink. That's what I would.
Yep.
nightcap.
Definitely, and you know, it's I would say that this is just surprising enough, but familiar.
And that's like I think that's I don't know, that's definitely my style. Is I'm not like overly literal, but I think a good variation should be pretty close to the original. You shouldn't be able to, you shouldn't look at it on a menu and be like, what is this?
Different drink altogether.
Right.
So
Yeah, like you should be able to read it and be like, oh yeah, especially if you see the like the specs. Like if I saw equal parts of 2 spirits of vermouth and some a bar spoon or something and a couple dashes or something, I'd be like, oh cool, Vieux Carré spec, that's cool, But that's the thing, like once you kind of understand why each ingredient is in that classic cocktail, you can start playing around, moving stuff around, pulling some stuff out and putting some else in. And that's why we focus on classics, because they're the building blocks of all modern cocktails.
Oh, Carl says, can we do that recipe? So it was chocolate bitters.
I did.
Cacao bitters.
It is from Angostura, so this is their first new product in 100 years, which is pretty cool. The House of Angostura, they probably, I mean, it kind of tastes like they pretty much took their aromatic and threw a bunch of cacao nibs on it.
Yeah.
But their aromatic is so damn good that like it's still a crowd pleaser for sure.
Yeah, I did the cacao Peychaud's classic. I did 2 bar spoons of Drambuie.
Drambues.
3/4 rye. 3/4 of the Akataschen, and then 3/4 of sweet vermouth.
Sweet vermouth. Made just enough. And Drambuie also has that honey component, so great call on that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely has those. It's sweet too. Like has a little sweetness.
But instead of it being a brandy base, it's a Scotch base. So it's brilliant. Bam.
Boom.
There's a reason why we bring Meg's.
This worked out really well. That's really delicious.
It.
Yep. I think I like hers better than mine.
It's my first drink I've made in a really long time.
Still got it. She still got it, folks.
You have to be in the right mood to play with cocktails,
True. Yeah.
I feel like when you're making drinks by yourself, or at least for me, I'm less likely to experiment. It's really weird.
I don't know.
By yourself?
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know. Like I feel like I have. I don't know. I think a lot of bartenders have a lot of modifiers lying around, right? Because it's just like trying to flavor build and like learn how to do that stuff. I have so many modifiers in my house. It might be because I work for a modifier brand, but like, holy hell.
Also, like events you do and samples you get from the bar.
I still have bottles from back when like I was younger, learning how to bartend, and they're really dusty. They're all like, I like to send photos of them to people who work on those brands today because they've never seen the labels from the early 2000s. But
new marketing.
I still have a lot of that stuff, and it's kind of fun sometimes. Usually the first drink I'll make is like the classic, and I'll be like, I got that. Yeah, let's try it, or whatever. So that's kind of fun too, and that's something you can do at home, right? Now that you have a 15-bottle bar, is that you can kind of switch stuff out. If it's a cognac drink, you'd be like, well, let me try it with rye, or the classic move, right? You can take a cognac drink and turn it into a gin drink, and it's a modern classic, So, and I think even a postmodern world, I think we're going to be moving all those gin drinks back to cognac at some point.
It's possible.
Yeah, hopefully. I don't know. Like I think cognac and brandy is a really cool ingredient that's underutilized in cocktails, and this is one that kind of showcases that.
I feel like each city kind of has its own pockets of like great cocktail spots, but then there are only really a few cities that have bars that are focused on one spirit. I mean, San Diego's has a whiskey bar, and that's not really surprising, but that's kind of it.
We have a couple.
What do you have?
We
in
have
mind?
the whiskey house down
Tequila bar.
here.
Yeah, the whiskey
Tequila
house.
bar.
Tequila
we have a
bars.
few agave bars at this point, right? We have obviously Cantina Mayahuel, but
That's true,
yeah.
of course.
Being 15 minutes from the border, kind of.
But I was speaking more about like sherry and cognac. Like those spirits don't really have an entire bar.
It's too bad because I would be there.
Right?
Yeah, I would be there every day.
I'd
probably donate a couple hours of my life just to work there for free at a sherry bar if we had one here. If it was like a Spanish tapas bar with just sherry.
That's what I was just thinking.
There's a couple of these types of things in Sydney, Australia. When I was there last year, I didn't leave. They're like, we got to go to the distillery now. I'm like, oh, just one more sherry. So good. But yeah, like cities like San Francisco has pisco bars. We have, it's kind of cool to, or Whitechapel with gin. it's kind of cool to just delve into one thing like you did at $7,000 and really own it and know it and be the experts on it. But I think generally cocktail bars should be really well versed in all spirits and all flavor profiles, because you can't afford to be one dimensional.
Yeah.
And that's good too for, it allows people the whole compendium to play with.
There's more room for experimentation too.
Right.
Well,
as opposed to like streamlining with one spirit.
we got a question now. Thoughts on chartreuse and a Vauqueray riff?
Oh, I think, yeah, for sure. Like yellow chartreuse definitely has those honey notes and the citrus. I think it'd be really good, yeah. Do you have?
We
No.
don't have any, unfortunately.
We'll get some. I'll bring some over. For sure. Chartreuse is excellent. And
Yeah, has those herbal notes too.
and there's two
So
of them, right?
it's
So
almost similar too.
Megan was right on by suggesting the yellow the yellow chartreuse to swap out for the Benedictine, because they have a similar sugar content, and they both have kind of that honey nature to them. The chartreuse will also obviously be more herbal and more like alpine, but that, like if anybody's had a Greenpoint Manhattan before, which has a little green chartreuse in it, that's a really fantastic,
Forgot about that cocktail.
simple. It's so good. It's one of my favorite like simple variations on a classic. And I've seen people just add, like swap out a 1/4 ounce of chartreuse for how much sweet vermouth they put in the drink. Or I've also seen it just be like it's all yellow chartreuse, and kind of really blow it up. But it obviously works already. I feel like it'll change the drink, obviously, but I think it would be a really rad variation. And if you wanted to use green chartreuse, because that's what you have in your house, you could do that. It's going to be way less sugar content, so maybe just bar spoon that on top of the Benedictine.
That could work. Also pairs really well with the rye. So and the vermouth.
Yeah, and cognac. French on French action won't hurt. Yeah.
I'm like
I think we're getting into a different industry.
No, we're not.
French.
We're just drinking and having a good time.
Yeah,
I
Oh,
think
it's
try that
thoughts
again.
it's
on.
cocktail tasting.
Gotta try that again.
Try that.
Obviously, when you the things to keep in mind, Tom, when you're talking about different cognacs, is obviously proof, and there's dosage in cognac where they add a little bit of caramel for color, but that does add just a hint of sweetness. So your 80 proofs are gonna like taste a little sweeter on the tongue. What I would be looking for in a cocktail is less about like finding the most baller cognac, and find one that has a higher proof from 80, even if it's 90 or 87. Just something that has a little bit more proof, because we're going to be diluting this drink. I think that is more important than finding, your most baller Cavassier or, whatever. Just finding something that you can really enjoy in the cocktail, but doesn't I wouldn't blow your piggy bank on, especially when it's only one of 3 parts of, of a spirit blend. Yeah. If it was a more spirit forward, like cognac forward cocktail, I would say, yeah, go ahead, try it with a really expensive cognac. Here, it would just get lost for the most part, in my opinion. But if that's all you have and you're, feeling saucy, please report back. Maybe I'm wrong. You got any other questions, comments?
I have been to a few home bars where they have only high-end stuff and they have no modifiers. So usually, you wind up just seeing if you can get a lime out of their fridge, and
Yeah.
what else can you do?
Yeah, totally. Just make sours all day or old-fashioned variations. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen they don't even have bitters. Don't even own bitters. You're like, okay.
So they're just drinking their spirits neat then. They're not.
Yeah, I'm no judgment. It's
Yeah, of
just like,
course.
they're like, yeah, you want to make some cocktails, and you go in there and you're like,
With.
Yeah, well, I think it's really important, especially now that we've had this year of being at home more, to hold a well-stocked bar, at least on the things you like to drink. It'll definitely let you, feel a little less claustrophobic about being stuck at home, I feel like, right? Like, if you have some of the things you really love about being out in public, at home, obviously it's going to take some of that stress off your plate. Case in point, yesterday, one of the things I was really missing was good sushi, and eating away from my cat, who's like always in my face, right? Like every time I'm eating. He's like, "Give me meats, Dad."
Yeah.
So we went and got takeout sushi, and we brought it back and sat on the patio, put the fireplace on, and then just like shut the door. And so it was this really weird thing where he was pacing, he was jumping around, like trying to get our attention to allow him outside. We were just like, nope, just eating our sushi, having a great time. But I think that's really important, is to take a little bit what you love on the outside world and bringing it home. And part of that is just having some of your favorite modifiers and a few things in your bar stocked up, I think is really important.
And like we were saying, like you don't have to buy a full size bottle of anything. You can get 375.
Yeah, super important, right? Mm-hmm. We have a 750 milliliter bottle of Benedictine here. This will last you the rest of your life. No joke. And there's a lot of great classic cocktails that call for Benedictine, but they call for a bar spoon or a wisp or a quarter of an ounce. There's no drink in the classic compendium that calls for any more than that. So little hack for sure, like Meghan suggests, is to look for the 375 milliliter version, which will be half, a little more than half the price, but in half the booze. So yeah, you won't have to break the piggy bank. It'll fit better in your home bar because this big long, or big wide knobby thing in the bottom takes up a lot of real estate. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think we've ever seen anything smaller than a 375 milliliter. If you find one, please report back. If there's a 200 milliliter hip flask of Benedictine I'm not aware of, that could really come in handy for home bars. But yeah, and that's to be said for all of these modifiers. I mean, nobody needs the full 375 of Luxardo or the 750. Yeah. The 375 milliliter will more than handle. Once again, a product where generally you're not going to see more than a quarter ounce in a cocktail, if that, right? And that's still pretty hotly contested. So
I think we had one last us for 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that happened.
For sure. I kept buying new bottles of Campari, and I there was like one tucked in. And about 10 years later, I had this bottle of Campari that had really, like, once again, I texted to a few of the people who work for Campari, like Warlow, and I was just like, dude, have you seen this? It was before they like created Campari America. In the back of the label, which is funny because people still argue over whether you should shake a Negroni or not. The back of the bottle said shake your Negroni. So it was like, see, the Campari said 10 years ago, right? Like, don't stop making fun of people,
And I've also heard you say that you'll still drink it.
I would absolutely still drink it because what's great about the Negroni is that and I'm sorry, we've already done this episode, but you can't fuck it up. It's perfect.
Sure.
The way, any way you do it, it's gonna be great. It's great on really terrible ice. It's great, obviously, on a large rock and perfectly stirred. It just can handle a lot of dilution, even if it's shaken. You add some orange juice on that, and it's a brunch drink. It's a shakerado. Yeah, you can't mess up a Negroni.
Well, we are so happy. I'm going to close up in just a minute. If there are any more questions, we'd love to have them. Again, we're here at the Cocktail Journey. We're just interested in helping friends and family serve one another in a better way. Let's enjoy our food and drink and encourage one another. We appreciate you guys so much. And if you're here next week, we would love to have you. I think we're doing the daiquiri next week.
We are doing the daiquiri.
Which I am literally like physically happier because I hear that word. I don't know why. It's weird, but that makes me so happy.
Next Thursday, but
we will be
so
happy.
In the Grand Cayman Islands.
I don't care.
In our minds, right? We're going to be in Cuba, like just having a great time.
Somehow my clothes will fit better because of that drink, You're just like, oh, wow, I'm doing something right. Thank you guys so much.
Cheers, everybody. We'll see you next time.